on that donate button.
Mary had a little lamb.
We believe that all men are created
Equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America.
From radio beacon to radio beacon.
I have a dream.
Change has come to America.
Believe me.
Help is on the way.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show. Turn up your mind.
Alan Weisselberg, the Trump Organization's former CFO, will likely be serving 5 months at Rikers Island in New York. He pleaded guilty just moments ago to all 15 counts against him. Now, we have to point out these counts in this case does not personally name Trump, but it names a number of executives with inside the Trump Organization. Alan Weisselberg at the top for taking basically payments and perks off the books to the tune of $1.8 million and then avoiding taxes on them. So basically, this is all coming down to tax evasion by the Trump Organization. What's interesting here is that now that we're seeing that Alan Weisselberg will be so cooperative, pleading guilty to all 15 counts, we can expect testimony from him where we can understand more about the inner workings of this company and the measures that executives there took to try to hide income and other things and keep it away from tax from the IRS.
Oh, America, 15 felonies and he's going to get maybe 100 days in jail. 15 felonies, everybody, including grand larceny and criminal tax fraud. And the 75-year-old Weisselberg is going to get, 100 days in Rikers Island is what it's going to have. I mean, Better Call Saul, everybody. Better Call Saul. This is so, look, grand larceny and criminal tax fraud. That should be on the masthead of Trump Organization stationery. It's unbelievable to me. Now, any building that is emblazoned with the gold letters Trump, is telling the world that they are a criminal enterprise. They are criminally operated and criminally owned. And people still pay for that branding. How stupid can you get? But, listen, this is what happens. This is what happens with, you lay down with dogs. You wake up in Rikers Island with fleas is what happens. So, listen, the only way for me to feel at all like there's some equal justice under the law in this here country is to do it by a percentage. What do I mean by that? Well, Weisselberg is 75 years old. And so it's as a percentage of his remaining life. See what I mean? It's the only thing that I can do to calm myself over this miscarriage of justice. But yes, he's going to have to testify against his beloved Trump Organization, which is the only job this man has ever had. He worked for Donald Trump's father, and he worked for Donald Trump for like 40 years. Well, so maybe that's like being in prison for your whole life. That can't be pleasant. I would think Rikers Island might be like a spring vacation for him. Oh, my God. Virtually all his adult life was spent jiggling around Trump numbers. Do you know? I mean, that can't be fun. That couldn't be, a good way to live your life. I don't think maybe there's any punishment worse than working for the Trump family for your whole entire life. Look at Eric. Look at, Beavis and Butthead. They didn't turn out too well. Yeah. So for some of you, maybe you remember Alan Weisselberg from The Apprentice, which was supposed to be a reality show. Well, welcome to harsh reality, Weisselberg. Welcome to a harsh reality show. Maybe we should, review The Apprentice, but this time as a crime drama, a criminal drama. Just saying. So, yeah, he's going to have to testify. Here's David K. Johnston, who is, whenever you need tax information, not a bad place to start.
Depending on what prosecutors do with this deal, it could be very, very troubling for the Trump Organization, which is a co-defendant along with Alan Weisselberg. And ultimately, this case, at least in theory, could lead to dissolution of the Trump Organization as a corporation and require Donald Trump to hold his properties in his own name, which exposes him to a lot more liability in other matters.
Yeah, I think we should focus on that because the headline was, oh, he's not going to cooperate when it comes to Donald Trump. It's not without some peril, perhaps, for Donald Trump that you could see the Trump Organization dissolved here. There's a lot at stake for him.
Exactly. And Letitia James also is likely in her state civil case to eventually seek this. You'll recall when these charges were brought as an effort to leverage Weisselberg that I predicted would fail, and it did, to move against Donald Trump. It was poo-pooed by Trump's representatives and lawyers who said, oh, it's not that much money and everybody does this. This is $1.8 million of taxable fringe benefits that were evaded by not reporting them. By the way, the median wage worker in America, the person half earn more, half earn less, would need 52 years to earn that much money. The average wage, about 40 years.
Better get busy, maggots. Better get busy. The man literally was a criminal tax cheat. So now maybe you understand why Donald Trump stiffs everybody, because the one time he does pay somebody, he gets caught. He gets caught in such a way that it's a felony. Okay. It's really sick. What a crime boss this man is. I swear to God. So this was a long time scheme by the Trump Organization to avoid paying taxes by concealing executive pay and executive perks. And this is probably the only time that Trump is on record for paying somebody. It just takes your breath away. It really does. But hey, listen, if you're a maggot and you think Trump is all about you and you think Trump is all about, honest government and, he's got you all unloading your weapons on like Motel 6 beds and TikToking it and videotaping yourself saying they're coming for us, they're coming. Perhaps you should make a note of why we need IRS enforcement in this here country. I mean, the fraud that goes on at the very tippy top, I don't really think they're coming after you for your 1040 easy form. That's just an opinion, but I don't see it happening. I don't see armed guys bypassing the H&R Block that you use to file your taxes only to come up with a refund at the end instead of you owe anything because you didn't owe anything, because 57% of Americans don't owe any federal income tax. So I don't know why, you're all, you got your panties all in a bunch about, actually enforcing our tax laws when you can clearly see that there's been so much tax fraud, and that when you get charged with criminal tax fraud and grand larceny, meaning you avoided over $2 million in taxes as an accountant, that's what he was. And when you can avoid paying $2 million in taxes as an accountant because you were paid under the table, because they gave you free rent, because they bought you cars, because they paid for your kids' college tuition, and those things should have been taxed as ordinary income, and you should have paid for those things. You get away with it, and you get 100 days. They're saying 5 months. They're saying, he'll be sentenced to 5 months in Rikers. No, he'll get 100 days with time served. Literally, it's like nothing. Do you really think that's what would happen to you if you cheated the IRS out of $2 million? Because I don't think so. 15 felonies. 100 days, everybody. 100 days. It's amazing. You got little kids that are locked up in juvie, swear to God, for skipping school for longer time periods than Weisselberg. But he is going to have to testify against the Trump Organization, and because he's pled guilty, he has absolutely no ability to invoke his Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination because he's already incriminated. He already admitted to the felonies. He already pled guilty. So now he has to testify. He has to testify about all the numbers. And, there's so many cases. This trial starts in October. This is a criminal trial. Then you got the civil trial by the DA in New York. Then you got Georgia. Then you got the DOJ. Oh, my God.
All things Randi at RandiRhodes.com.
Go for launch.
Speaking truth to power, The Randi Rhodes Show.
As the legal battle over the steel-sealed affidavit moves to this Florida courthouse, the federal probe into former President Trump's alleged handling of top-secret documents taken to his Mar-a-Lago home remains under scrutiny. The search warrant shows 3 federal laws are in play, including the alleged unauthorized taking, disclosure, or destruction of government records. Later today, the judge will consider if law enforcement documents that justified the FBI search should be made public. The Justice Department claims releasing the affidavit could serve as a roadmap to the government's ongoing investigation, chill future cooperation by witnesses, and harm other high-profile investigations.
I'll talk about this until it's over.
A second criminal probe is unfolding in Georgia, where Rudy Giuliani, the former president's personal lawyer and longtime friend, appeared before a special grand jury Wednesday after he was subpoenaed.
So I was very happy that I satisfied my obligation.
Prosecutors are exploring whether Trump or his allies violated Georgia's election laws when they allegedly tried to overturn the state's 2020 presidential election results. And in recent weeks, grand jury subpoenas suggest federal investigators are examining key White House meetings leading up to the deadly Capitol riot. Former Vice President Pence said Wednesday he might answer questions from the January 6th committee.
If there was an invitation to participate, I would consider it.
The Trump Organization is also at the center of a long-running investigation in New York.
My chief financial officer, Alan Weisselberg. And you think George is tough? Wait till you see Alan.
Alan Weisselberg could plead guilty as early as today in an alleged tax scheme to compensate Trump Organization executives off the books.
In pleading guilty, Weisselberg has to acknowledge conspiring with the Trump Organization to evade taxes, and he could be called to testify if the case goes to trial. Trump maintains his innocence and says these investigations, Tony, are politically motivated.
Get that. You either stole or you didn't steal. I mean, looking into it couldn't possibly be politically motivated. Either he stole $2 million or he didn't steal $2 million. Either the Trump Organization is a corrupt organization that pays people to avoid taxes and lies about the value of its properties for the purpose of taxation, and then lies about the value of the same properties for the purpose of getting bank loans, inflates them for that purpose, deflates them for the tax purpose, or not. Or not. How is that politics? You either did it or you didn't do it. Well, the jury said he did do it. They said he did do it. Weisselberg actually committed, grand theft larceny. I mean, it's just an amazing thing. We have video games about that. And you see what ensues with him. It's like he'll do 100 days on Rikers Island over here, and then he'll testify against the Trump Organization. Now, the only saving thing the idea that people go to jail for years at a clip for so much less is so offensive to ordinary workaday people like us that it's hard to even hold it in your head that you could steal $2 million from the government, lie about it for years, and do 100 days in Rikers Island, right? That the organization itself could fly under the radar for years, cheating and defrauding and lying, and it's just wow. But of course, it's all political, It's all politics. Well, either you did it or you didn't do it. Did you do it? Yeah, you did it. So but look at all of these investigations. Oh my God. And it's all going to come back to a racketeering, influenced, corrupt organization, the Trump Organization. It's all going to come back to that. All of this is going to be one giant RICO case, right? So you have a criminal investigation into the classified taking and the mishandling of top secret and above top secret compartmented intelligence. You have that. You've got another criminal investigation in Georgia into trying to steal an election. I mean, it's unbelievable. Rudy said he's very excited that he satisfied the requirements of his subpoena. We still don't know whether he answered any questions or all the questions or no questions. because nobody's saying anything about what happened in front of that grand jury yesterday. But that's a criminal investigation, too. Then you've got another criminal investigation at the Department of Justice about fake electors and lying to state legislators in multiple states, Arizona, for instance, Pennsylvania as another, obviously Georgia, right? You got all this going on. And then Weisselberg, the trial against the Trump Organization, which is a criminal trial, that starts in October, everybody. And then you've got the civil case that Letitia James is bringing as the district attorney in New York, and that's a civil case to recover damages for all this stinking fraud. Now, the only good thing about Weisselberg, as I said, is that he has to make recompense. He has to pay back the $2 million. He has to pay $2 million in restitution, including any penalties on the taxes and the interest on the taxes that he did not pay because he never, he committed tax fraud there. So there'll be money that has to be paid to the government. I mean, it's just, wow, this is amazing. This is just really amazing. But I have to tell you how stupid Trump voters are, how absolutely bottom-feeding they are. They're giving the Donald, even more of their cash. They're forking over $1 million a day to Donald Trump because they think that going and getting the classified top secret and above top secret nuclear weapons information from Mar-a-Lago was somehow a political move on somebody's part. What? First of all, I have to tell you, his lawyers are so stupid. You know this Christina Bopp girl? I'm not even going to play it for you, but they've been talking on Newsmax and One America News Network, where she used to work as a presenter. And they're calling the judge in West Palm Beach, who just heard the case today about whether or not he should or could unseal the affidavit. It's an affidavit without redactions or with redactions or some whatever. I mean, he's actually here. He heard the case today. He has kicked the can down the road. He said it's going to take a week to make up his mind. They're going to go through the affidavit paragraph by paragraph and see what would actually put people in harm's way, witnesses in harm's way, witnesses would get threatened, or, whether or not it would signal the actual strategy that the government is using in order to prosecute this case. So they're calling him, I swear to God, on these stupid channels of theirs, they keep on talking about this judge as being Judge Reinhold. Judge Reinhold is the Beverly Hills cop, as you know. Not a West Palm Beach judge. But they're so stupid, they just sit there and they go, Judge Reinhold did this and Judge Reinhold did that. Judge Reinhold is a super fine actor, but he's a cop, not a judge. All right.
Yeah,
I like
he's
him.
Okay. He's okay.
I like him, okay? He's not a De Niro, okay? He's not a... He's
a little bit of a ham sandwich.
Not an Anne Hesh.
Oh, man. That stunk.
She's dead. But they just can't even get the judge's name right. And here they are threatening an actor. Literally. And their sycophants are so dumb that they if I were Judge Reinhold, I'd go out and hire some security. I'd get a PI. I'd get Axel.
Call in, connect. To speak to Randi, call 561-270-3844. 561-270-3844.
Okay, this section of the show is fun.
Tonight, Harriet Hageman has received the most votes in this primary. She won. I called her to concede the race.
Okay, remember that from yesterday? Everybody, remember that? Okay, so Harriet Hageman went on with Sean Hannity last night and said this.
Well, there wasn't a phone call. While I was going in and getting ready to do my acceptance speech last night and had just arrived at the watch party, she called and left a very brief 2-second message on my cell phone. That's the extent of it. I haven't had any other contact with Liz Cheney. She only made the one effort, and all she said was, "Hello, Harriet," and then that was the end of it. So she didn't call and discuss with me any kind of concession or anything else. It was just a one phone call. I was obviously extremely busy with family and friends.
She just said, hello, Harriet, and then hung up?
That was the end of the call, yes. That was the only time. It was about 8:15 last night, and I was just getting ready to go on stage with my acceptance speech, and I didn't have an opportunity to visit with her.
Okay. Another maggot, another liar. Liz Cheney released the audio from the phone call.
Please leave a message, and I will call you back as soon as I can.
AP's calling it, so we should go. Message. Tell us.
Hi, Harriet. Liz Cheney calling. It's about 8:13 on Tuesday the 16th. I'm calling to concede the election and to congratulate you on the win. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Whoops. Another maggot, another liar. And you know Harriet Hageman was a never Trumper. You know that, right? She was a person that thought that she actually said out loud that Donald Trump was a racist. He was a xenophobe. She campaigned for Liz Cheney in the 2016 election cycle. She campaigned for Liz Cheney in the 2018 election cycle. I mean, and now all of a sudden, Donald Trump's, like anybody that runs against Liz Cheney, doesn't matter who it is, anybody at all, I will endorse you. And she goes, okay, I'll do it. And then goes on the TV and trashes the woman that she campaigned for after she lies about the fact that Liz Cheney was not graceful. Trying to make Liz Cheney, who at least is a truth teller. I mean, like I said, she's a Cheney. I don't agree with anything she says. Liz Cheney would appropriate every single dollar that America has in the U.S. Treasury to war and defense contractors. Okay, there is no love there. There is no love there. But there is an admiration for the fact that in the GOP, there was a person who had convictions, who had principles, who had integrity, who wasn't a liar. And now this girl here who knows that is saying and she's not graceful. She's not even graceful. She doesn't even leave a nice message. She doesn't even congratulate. She just said, hi, this is Liz Cheney, and hung up. Even Hannity wasn't buying that. Because she's not a coward, Liz. Okay? She knew she was going to lose in Wyoming if she joined the January 6th committee, let alone become its vice chair. But she cares about this country. She cares about a democracy with a small d. She cares about continuing the experiment. She cares about the debate. She cares about, having, debates over important. She doesn't, she doesn't really countenance liars all that well. While we disagree on many, many life and death issues, like abortion and war making. Holy crap. Now they're trying to make her into like, a coward, ungraceful, somebody that snuck away from her responsibility to say congratulations. She totally said it. You could hear that's her staff. They're in a car. And her staff says to her, AP just called it. We should go. And you could see Liz Cheney putting up her finger and saying, 1 second, and leaves Hageman. Listen, Harriet, it's Liz. Just calling to concede and congratulate you on your win. It's 8:13 on Tuesday, timestamp. You know what I'm saying? Just, wow, they just can't help themselves. They have to lie. They have to lie. And Hageman has become a world heavyweight champion liar in that she now says that the election was stolen. She's an election denier. And she doesn't believe a word of it. Not one syllable. Not one single solitary letter in the word stolen does she believe applies here. She just did it to, get a. She had run for other things and always lost.
But also, I think if they start to try to normalize election irregularities, election denying, it just takes more power out of the voters' hands if they can discredit the whole process. And I think she's just trying to normalize it.
She doesn't give a damn. She just got elected through a free and fair election. And she knows that too. This is disgusting behavior, really disgraceful. And she just sat there and lied. Oh, and you know who else? So Dr. Oz, he's going to lose. You know what I'm looking at now? I'm looking at some of the battleground states. Remember, I told you there were a lot of Senate seats that we could win. A lot of them. This was one House seat from Wyoming that Liz Cheney obviously knew she didn't have a chance to win if she held Donald Trump and his, criminal organization accountable for lying to legislators, creating fake electors, actually having fake electors affix their name under penalty of perjury, saying that they were the duly elected electors, attacking the Capitol in the end because violence was the last play, and Trump was willing to push that button. He was willing to play that and actually have his own vice president killed so he couldn't certify the election, and then turn around and say to staffers who have all testified that Mike Pence deserves it, which is what Liz Cheney was able to expose by, exploring the violence that happened on January 6th, by exposing the origins of that violence, by exposing the plot to kill Mike Pence so that the election would not be certified. She understood she was defending America, but she was not going to be a viable candidate. And she decided that she was throwing in with America more than she was throwing in with a House seat. Okay, that's what her decision was. So that's one House seat, right? And I told you there were 10 House seats that were up for grabs because 10 voted to impeach Donald Trump over this violence, over this, plot, over the fake elector. Because a lot of people understood what was going on because some of them were part of it. Okay. But of the 10, 4 lost, 4 don't want to run anymore. Thanks. And 2 got reelected. So that's the record. But the Senate, my God, I'm looking at like some of these Republicans that got Trump's endorsement, not doing very well. Marco Rubio, that little liar, Val Demings, who I just voted for in the primary. She's 4 points ahead of Marco. She's 4 points ahead of little Marco. Fetterman and Oz, that Senate race. Well, I'll tell you this, Oz is just making a mess out of, running from a state he doesn't live in and lying to people about the price of asparagus and I mean, it's just very sad and sick what's going on. And then I look at Wisconsin. Mandela Barnes, 7 points ahead of Ron Johnson.
This is the Randi Rhodes Show. To speak with Randi, dial 561-270-3844. That's 561-270-3844.
They are going to indict Donald Trump. Merrick Garland has lost his senses.
But I think you pointed out last week, if they do indict him, crazily enough, I mean, if they're crazy enough to do it, that doesn't render him ineligible to run or even be president?
He can, listen, Eugene Debs ran for president from a federal prison. There's no reason that that's going to happen to Donald Trump. He's not going to be in a federal prison. But if he's indicted, he will run for president.
Oh, my God. So that's his own, team of lawyers there. That's Joe DeGeneva, saying on Newsmax yesterday that if Donald Trump will be indicted, that's Joe DeGeneva saying Donald Trump will be indicted, and he could run for president from prison. This is where the conversation has gone on these right-wing, lunatic, fringy, channels. Well, he'll still run. He'll run from prison. I mean, I'm just going to play this for you one more time. It's very short.
They are going to indict Donald Trump. Merrick Garland has lost his senses.
But I think you pointed out last week, if they do indict him, crazily enough, I mean, if they're crazy enough to do it, that doesn't render him ineligible to run or even be president?
He can, listen, Eugene Debs ran for president from a federal prison. There's no reason that that's going to happen to Donald Trump. He's not going to be in a federal prison. But if he's indicted, he will run for president.
Oh, my God.
That blows my mind. He feels that Merrick Garland has lost his senses, not the guy who called up himself to get 11,000 votes or the,
what's interesting?
The guy who sold nuclear secrets. It's Garland who's lost his senses.
Well, Garland will not indict. The grand jury indicts. So he's literally calling the people who serve in a grand jury, the jurors, he's calling them, insane. He's saying they've lost their minds because Merrick Garland doesn't indict anybody. Okay. The grand jury indicts. So you're talking about a jury of humans, a jury of people who are called to service and are seated on a grand jury. He's saying that they have lost their minds, but he's implying to the Newsmax audience that can't figure out that there's a grand jury made of jurors who will indict or not indict by saying Merrick Garland is going to do it. Merrick Garland doesn't do anything. Nothing. And the guy who was in charge of the execution of the warrant at Mar-a-Lago for what you just brought up, the stealing of top secret and above top secret classified documents and mishandling them at the very least, and at the very most using them as leverage, or, and we don't even know whose nuclear documents it is. Is it our nuclear documents? Is it an ally's nuclear documents? Is it enemy's nuclear we have no idea what it is, okay? Nor should we at this point. But the guy who actually asked for the search warrant and went there after Donald Trump was subpoenaed and refused to turn over these documents, saying, they're mine, you can't have them, after he got his lawyer to, under penalty of perjury, sign a piece of paper swearing, under penalty of perjury, that there were no documents there, and having his idiot kids go on television saying they won't find anything there because there is nothing there. He turned all those 15 boxes over. There's nothing there, right? And then, they were subpoenaed to turn over the remaining documents because they learned that there were more documents. And they denied that there were more documents. And then they said, if there are more documents, because you planted them after the fact, right? And then they got a subpoena and they violated the subpoena. So they're in contempt of court there, too. And then the man who actually said, all right, I need a search warrant. I have to go get these documents. Now, I saw something on the surveillance video that we subpoenaed that worries me about the handling and the storage of these documents. And like I said, we don't know whose nuclear weapons secrets they are. But that man's name is Jay Bratt. And Jay Bratt is a very big dog. He is a huge dog, okay? He is the head at the Department of Justice of the National Security Division, who deals with counterintelligence and nuclear secrets. That's who asked for the search warrant. And Joe DeGenova is cavalierly suggesting on the TV, well, even if he's, indicted for this, even if, he's, arrested, even if he is charged with espionage, he could still run. This is where the Republican Party is at this point. And Sean Hannity, he's all freaked out because he understands that, guys in Wisconsin, Mandela Barnes is the lieutenant governor of Wisconsin right now, and he's running against Ron Johnson for that Senate seat, and Mandela Barnes is kicking Ron Johnson's bloody butt all over the place. 7-point lead right now. Okay, we've got 12 weeks, but 7-point lead right now. Val Demings is giving Marco Rubio. These are flipping seats. Okay, these aren't seats that we had and we're trying to keep. These are seats we could flip. Val Demings is ahead of Marco Rubio by 4 percentage points. Right, Fetterman is beating Mehmet Oz. Now, that's, an open Senate seat, right? But Fetterman is beating Oz. Oz is so far back now, I think 11 points. I don't think he's got a prayer, okay? And there are some other pickup opportunities that we have, too. You got North Carolina, some guy named Bud running against a state Supreme Court justice named Sherry Beasley. Yeah, you got some of that going on there, too. So I don't know. And so anyway, they're sitting on Fox going, hey, this is not a wave election. Now, by all historical accounts, it should be, right? Because we know whatever party the president is in the midterm elections, that party loses the midterms, right? Now they're getting all freaked out, right?
Let's be clear. This is not a guaranteed wave election. Anyone that says Republicans have a lock on the House and the Senate, they're lying to you. They don't know. The races can be extremely competitive in every bellwether state. This is really for the country an all-hands-on-deck situation.
Oh, my God. They know. They know that they're going to lose. And they're losing over really stupid things. They're losing over being posers. They're losing over not living in the state in which they're running. They're losing over, trashing the FBI, trashing police. The reason why Val Demings is beating Marco Rubio is Val Demings was a police chief. She was a police officer for 27 years. 27 years. I don't know if you remember this exchange from the House of Representatives, but this is Val Demings taking on Jim Jordan about his great love for the police, right?
I served as a law enforcement officer for 27 years. It is a tough job, and good police officers deserve your support. You know, it's interesting to see my colleagues on the other side of the aisle support the police when it is politically convenient to do so. Law enforcement officers risk their lives every day. They deserve better, and the American people deserve. I have the floor, Mr. Jordan. What, did I strike a nerve? Law enforcement officers deserve better than to be utilized as pawns. And you and your colleagues should be ashamed of yourself.
The gentlelady will suspend and the clock will be stopped.
That's why she's winning. That's why. 27 years, police. She was a police officer. She was the chief of police. And crime, when she was chief of police, went down by 40%. An African-American woman. I am voting for every woman, every single woman I can vote for. I am voting for. You know, we had a primary, and I voted for every single person I picked in the primary. Now, I understand I'm just voting for a Democrat amongst Democrats. I get that. But I get to select who I want to take on Ron death sentence, who I want to take on Marco, and who I want on the courts, and who I want as agriculture secretary, and who I picked every single woman whose name was on that ballot. That's who I picked. Women are showing up in droves. This is what the right wing knows. Women are showing up in record numbers. When you look at, what happened in Kansas, amazing, right? Well, it turns out that most of the people that registered specifically for the purpose of voting in that primary, 70% of the new registrations, women. 70%. And it didn't matter if they were Democratic or Republican. They all went, they registered, and they were new voters for the first time, and they voted not to overturn Roe v. Wade in their state. This is a huge deal. And that's just one of the deals that's going on. Now you got the right wing literally telling you, defund the FBI. Now you got the right wing literally telling you, suffer and die. Now you got the right wing literally telling you, oh my God, it's not close. I mean, it's close.
Mary had a little man. The fault. We believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America.
From radio beacon to radio beacon.
I have a dream today.
Change has come to America.
Believe me.
Help is on the way.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show. Turn up your mind.
For years, decades, Congress said we were going to do something about climate change. Nothing happened. We were going to go after the pharmaceutical industry and lower the cost of prescription drugs. Nothing happened. We were going to go after wealthy corporations and individuals who didn't pay a fair share of taxes. Nothing happened. And now all of these things, plus 9 million jobs, plus real deficit reduction, $300 billion, is happening at once. It's an amazing accomplishment, and particularly in light of the fact, Rachel, we have a 50-50 Senate running from Bernie Sanders to Joe Manchin. We get no help from the Republicans on these issues.
Zero.
They're intransigent. So it's really something my colleagues stuck together, every one of us, because we knew we had to get something done. It doesn't have everything we want. It doesn't have everything I want. But if you ask the American people, are you anguishing and just concerned that we can't get it, that Congress is gridlocked and can't get anything done? Well, these 6 weeks have brushed that away. And I'll make one more comment, Rachel, about how it might affect things. People are now realizing that the Republican Party is becoming a MAGA Trump Republican Party. The Dobbs decision on choice and the other Supreme Court decisions on guns and on environment, the January 6th hearings, the right-wing rhetoric that comes out of almost so many mainstream or formerly mainstream Republican politicians, they don't like them. But they were wondering, well, if we give the Democrats power after November, keep the House Democratic, increase the number of seats in the Senate, will the Democrats be able to get anything done? I think the last 6 weeks, with all the bills you've mentioned, and particularly this recent bill, answer with a resounding yes. Democrats can get things done in a bipartisan way when Republicans will work with us or are pressured to work with us, but on our own if we have to.
I mean, every time there's a Democratic majority, things happen like health care. Things happen like voting rights. Things happen like human rights. Things happen like a war on poverty. Things happen for expanding access to rights. And every time the Republicans are in charge, you lose rights. You lose your right to privacy. Women are being told to suffer and die. National security is a joke with them. Now you know, not only don't they support the troops, which always annoyed me, that support the troops. War is hell, people, okay? Veterans literally put everything on the line for their country, only to come back and find a president who's not supporting the troops, a Republican Party that says veterans don't even deserve health care for, being exposed to toxic burn pits, toxic substances, day in, day out. Then they come home with these weird cancers. Well, according to Rand Paul, you have a choice in Kentucky. You can get rid of Rand. You can give us Mr. Charles Booker. Charles Booker, everybody, running against Rand Paul, who voted against our veterans getting health care, literally said, well, I don't think that they should get the presumption that they got cancers or they got, respiratory illnesses from the burn pits. I think they need to jump through some more hoops to prove that they got injured through the burn pits before we actually cover their weird cancers. That's what he actually said to the American people. Very sick and twisted party that is. But now, on top of it, national security is a joke. It doesn't matter. If Donald Trump has national security secrets, then Donald Trump shouldn't be questioned about who he sells it to or who he shows it to or how he maintains it or how careful he is with it or how careless he is with it. Doesn't matter. It's only our national security. And if Trump does it, it's fine with us. Oh, and by the way, we're supposed to feed on. Oh, and if Trump gets convicted, because he will be indicted by a grand jury, which are people, they're not Merrick Garland, they're people who are either going to indict him based on evidence that they've seen or not indict him based on evidence they've seen, right? Well, then he'll run from jail. He'll run from jail. Oh, and by the way, America can't hold a free and fair election. We're incapable of doing so, right? And a majority of the 25% of Americans who are Republicans to this minute, a majority of them, like 85, 90% of them, think that the election was stolen from Donald Trump. We have 50 different elections in 50 different states, okay? Every state runs its own election. We do that so that there is no opportunity to steal an election nationally. But they keep repeating this lie, and if he's indicted, it's political, and if he's indicted, he should run from jail, and we'll give him money because elections were stolen. And vets shouldn't get health care, and women should suffer and die. I'm telling you, I cannot believe what they've become. And by the way, you have no right to vote. It's not in the Constitution. And so if we decide as a state that, the way that we choose our electors isn't by an election, but instead the legislature chooses the electors for you, so be it. And you know how many idiot Republicans would go along with that in red states? I swear to God, they would. Missouri would give up its right to vote. They would, if it meant that they could have their Donald Trump back, their criminal back, if they could get their alligator back, if they could get their snake back. They would do it. They would give up their right to vote. That's what they're telling people. It's very sick. It's very sad. But I'm telling you right now, I think we're going to get Ohio. I think we're going to get Florida. I think we're going to get Wisconsin. And I know we'll get Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania. God, this man is such a freaking liar. Watch this. How many houses
Ladies and
do you
gentlemen, the
own?
man himself, Dr. Oz.
How many houses do you own? Really work with?
Well, I legitimately, I own 2 houses.
Survey said! Rich people think differently.
Rich people do think differently. Fetterman, owns 1 home. Dr. Oz owns 10 houses. And when he was asked, how many homes do you own? He said 2. Okay. Times 5. Apparently. I mean, that's just really sick. And then this stupid gaffe over the veggie tray. I mean, that's just dumb. Okay. That's just dumb. But this is what happened.
Thought I'd do some grocery shopping. I'm at Wegner's, and my wife wants some vegetables for crudité, right? So here's a broccoli. That's $2. Not a ton of broccoli there. There's some asparagus. That's $4. Yeah.
Wait, what?
Carrots. That's $4 more. That's $10 of vegetables there. And then we need some guacamole. That's $4 more. And she loves salsa. Yeah, there's salsa there. $6. Must be a shortage of salsa. Guys, that's $20 for crudité, and this doesn't include the tequila. I mean, that's outrageous. And we got Joe Biden to thank for this.
In PA, we call this a veggie tray. And if this looks anything other than a veggie tray to you, then I am not your candidate. And I'm serious, Dr. Oz doesn't even know the name of the grocery store that he's in.
Right. But, that's just a self-inflicted gaffe, many gaffes. Because who puts uncooked asparagus on the veggie tray? No one. Okay, so that's just ridiculous. He's never been in a supermarket in his life, which is why he doesn't know the name of the supermarket he's in. The idea that you're going to buy enough salsa for like 19 parties in the big vat instead of just chopping up a couple of tomatoes and sticking some onions and a little cilantro in there. And also the fact that Wegmans, which is the store he's at, sells the veggie tray with guacamole and salsa for $7.99. But he has no idea how to shop. He just wanted to say Biden. It's Biden's fault. By the way, today gas at my gas station was $3.29, 10 cents above what it was at the beginning before all this inflation. It was $3.19. Now it's $3.29. What are they going to do now? What are they going to do now? Things are like back to normal.
All things Randi at RandiRhodes.com.
Go for launch.
Speaking truth to power, the Randi Rhodes Show.
Got some good news for you just in time for football season. Chicken wing prices have now dropped to below their pre-pandemic levels. The wholesale price is now at a 4-year low.
What are they going to do now? We got a soft landing. We got inflation under control. Price of gas is back to normal. Chicken wings are below pre-pandemic prices. What are they going to do now? Now they're going to say, hey, he'll run from jail. That is really not a platform that I think America would embrace. There are some, 11% of this country that would embrace. But no, not really. I can't believe this man. Every time he opens up his mouth, he confesses to a crime every single time.
In my administration, I'm going to enforce all laws concerning the protection of classified information.
The government's paperwork lists 11 groups of documents found inside Mar-a-Lago under 3 headings: confidential, secret, and top secret.
This was not just extreme carelessness with classified material, which is still totally disqualified. This is calculated, deliberate, premeditated misconduct.
Classified documents relating to nuclear weapons were among the items the FBI agents were searching for.
A cover-up that included false statements and lies to Congress, the media, and the American people.
I'm concerned that they may have planted something. I think they just make stuff up and, come up with whatever they want.
He can literally stand over a set of documents and say, these are now declassified.
So disrespectful to our country, and actually very illegal.
It's very pathetic where they've gone, how low they have gone. It's just, listen, national security is now a joke, right? If Trump does it, that means it's not illegal. If Trump, violates, our national security, if Trump enriches himself, based on tax fraud or cheats or lies to insurance companies or lies to the government or lies to legislatures or lies to the American people, it's fine. It's fine. But we should lock Hillary up for her emails, which she turned over, 30,000 of them. There was just nothing in there. Chad in Oklahoma City.
Hey, Randy, it's so nice to be on here.
Oh, well, good.
I'm a first-time caller. And I just wanted to say how much I respect you. And I just wanted to say, I know how sad it was for Liz Cheney's concession speech. Wah, wah. But what I mean is, just like you were talking about, it's a sad case in democracy, And even though I don't believe in her politics at all, I believe in the principle. You know what I mean?
Yes, I do. And we got to a point where having integrity or any principles, whether we agree with the principle that guides you to believe that every dime should be spent on defense or not, at least,
right.
How is that now seen as an act of heroism? How is that now, a rare occurrence in the GOP?
That it shouldn't even matter. And I'm living in a state where,
it should matter. It should matter the most. I mean, truth and integrity and principles and character ought to be the very entry level sort of a bar for anybody to run for office. Then you get to policy and whether.
And then, I have to tell you, I have Mark Wayne Mullen running here against, against no one here for Senate, right? And there was this show where he was on a footstool because he was sitting against a 6'5" black man.
'Cause why?
He was doing a debate against a 6'5" black man, and he had a pedestal on his against the platform.
Who?
Behind him?
Who?
Mark Wayne Mullen, who's running for Senate from Oklahoma.
Uh-huh. And he had who on a stage?
He was debating against another one of his. I'm sorry, but I'm not really formal with him. But anyway, he had a footstool, and the Channel 4 News here circled it and made fun of it.
I don't understand. You're talking about something that no one has seen, so I don't know what you're talking about.
No, I'm just saying because he's shorter than the guy that was he was debating against. He's running for the United States Senate.
Against?
Well, he's trying to fill Jim Inhofe's position. That was I guess he's leaving. You know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
But anyway, Mark Wayne Mullen is not really that qualified as far as I'm concerned, because the only platform, just like you always said about the GOP, which is what they're doing, they have no policy. All they're doing is running against girls playing guys sports.
Right.
Which is their big.
Which happens never, okay? I mean, you're talking about they don't even want to let children play together because they
Right.
want. I mean, it's just so sick. Like, how many children who play together ever get to the Olympics in the first place? Okay. So
Exactly.
how is that an issue for voters who are legitimately looking to lower the cost of insulin? And their party is totally against lowering the cost of insulin.
Right.
But that's going to make them vote for a Republican. That the
And my
that,
friend's
that
diabetic.
That 1/10 of 100% of children who play together will ever compete in the Olympics. I don't,
Exactly.
I don't even understand.
I know. And another thing is, you know, it's just amazing that, like, my mother, she's like the greatest, and like she believes in everything, and she believes in gay people and like women's rights and everything. And I'm like, why do you keep voting for these people?
Well, they keep voting for them because they play to the grievance, they play to the resentment, and they try to tell people that the person who's to blame for what's going on is that person, is that other person, right? And it's not true. It's them. Their policies have totally transferred wealth from the middle class, broken up unions where we could collectively bargain for a decent salary. That was the
Right.
beginning of the end for the working.
Yeah.
Okay. And then they downshifted into, well, let's now address the tax code because people are making so much more money at the top.
No, we can't make too much.
No, people at the top are making so much money. So now we have to transfer the wealth, the little bit of wealth that the middle class has, to the very top in the form of tax cuts, right?
Right.
And so they keep on robbing you, and they keep on insulting you, and they keep on damaging you. And then they bring up social issues that don't matter a whit, that don't put a nickel in your pocket, that don't break your back, that don't do anything for you, but they rally their base based on the sports thing.
Call in, connect. To speak to Randi, call 561-270-3844.
561-270-3844. Excuses are nothing but a dead end, and expectations are something to be shattered. We can't settle for what is. We have to reach for what can be, pushing hard every step of the way, every single day. When the obstacles seem insurmountable, I was taught to draw strength from something bigger, because with faith, anything is possible. There are no idle hands here, no load we haven't carried, no one waiting for a handout or a free pass. But that hard work isn't paying off like it used to. The system isn't working. We see so many people who are working longer hours and harder, oftentimes for much less. And then there's the insurance companies. I mean, they don't even bat an eye if you have to get charged an arm and a leg for even thinking about seeing a doctor. My mom taught school for 30 years. My dad worked third shift at the factory. When I think about their hard work, about everything that Wisconsin families have on the line, there's no option to tap out, no towel to throw in. Instead of changing our dreams, we gotta change the game. That's America at its core. In this state, our state, we were the first to ratify the 19th Amendment, giving women the right to vote. We were the first to protect the rights of the LGBTQ community. We are game changers. It's time for us to stand for something, for opportunity, jobs that we can support a family on, an education that we can build the future on, farms run by our families, healthcare that actually protects our health, the tenacity to tackle climate change, and the principles to protect our democracy and the right to vote. Let's be unabashedly, unafraid to work together to change the game. When you stay focused on why you're running, nothing can slow you down. I'm Mandela Barnes. I'm running for the U.S. Senate, and I'm running for the people of Wisconsin.
And he's going to win, too. He is. He's going to beat Ron Johnson. You watch. So that's Mandela Barnes. You need to get acquainted because he's going to be your new senator from Wisconsin. That's pretty awesome. He's lieutenant governor now, just like Fetterman is lieutenant governor of Pennsylvania. And I think that these candidates who have shown you that they're anti-veteran, anti-national security, that if a past president wants to run from jail, they're down with it. They're cool with it. That's fine. That the election was stolen when it clearly was not. And that asparagus belongs on a veggie tray. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. They have no judgment. David in Iowa.
Hello. How are you doing today?
Oh, and you have a Navy admiral running against 88-year-old Chuck Grassley over there. You know that, Michael Franken?
Oh yeah. Grassley is kind of not really with it anymore.
He's a little elderly, and he needs to relax for the rest of his life. He needs to relax, take it easy.
That's what he needs to do.
Yeah.
But the point I wanted to bring up, with all that, I mean, I'm old enough to remember the GOQ running around with their hair on fire over Hillary Clinton's emails.
Yeah.
In emails.
Right.
And the 12 Benghazi hearings.
Yes.
But we're not even allowed to look into whether this guy might be selling our nuclear secrets, right?
Right.
We're not supposed to look at that.
No.
We're not supposed to look at this guy for trying to overthrow the government.
No.
Right?
Right.
We're supposed to let that one go, too.
Right.
We're not supposed to look at this guy where 5 people died on January 6th.
Right.
He's not responsible for that, is he?
Of course not.
He's not responsible for all the people with the arms that the Secret Service let through.
Right.
Nah, he's not responsible for that. He's innocent,
neither
right?
is he responsible for running a racketeering, influence, corrupt organization known as the Trump Organization. Neither is he responsible for defrauding students at Trump University and having to pay $25 million. Neither is he responsible for saying, I can grab women by the you-know-what, because when you're a star, they let you do anything. Neither is he responsible for... he's not responsible for anything he does. Nothing he does.
No, but then,
whatever he does or doesn't do,
he throws someone else under the bus.
Right. He's the victim. Whatever he does or doesn't do, he's a victim. He's the victim.
Well, that's because he's a malignant, narcissistic sociopath.
That's right.
I'm from New Jersey. Originally.
Yeah.
And we knew Donald Trump over there.
Well, I'm from New York. I know Donald Trump too.
We watched him destroy Atlantic City. Ask him about where his hotels are in Atlantic City. Oh, that's right. They're all rubble now.
Yes, because he was running a corrupt organization there, too. His father, remember the story of his father? His father came into the casino and gave tried to give them $3 million under the table with chips. Remember that?
How about when he was trying to sue all the Indian casinos to keep them from opening up? Because they'd be in competition with him.
Listen, the man has never made an honest sentence in his life.
He was given money.
Listen, he's a criminal. He is a criminal, and he's about to face the bar of justice. That is what is happening here.
I hope he does.
And the idea that the Republican Party now stands for absolutely nothing except Donald for Donald Trump's victimhood. Okay. It's bizarre. It's a bizarre thing. These were the people with the support the troops. These were the people with national security is everything. These were the people where, 9/11, even though it happened on W's watch, was Bill Clinton's fault, right? Remember? And national security, we need a Department of Homeland Security. They created an entire agency. They made government even bigger, even larger.
And now they're attacking it.
Yes.
They're attacking the FBI. They attacked the Department of Homeland Security. Now they're going after the IRS, saying that they're coming with
guns.
As what did Chuck Grassley say? AK-15s, which there's no such thing as. It's an AK-47, Chuck.
Navy Admiral Michael Franken, David. Navy Admiral Michael Franken in the general election. Yes. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
That's a good call. We need more Davids voting in Iowa.
Iowa, yeah. Robert in Florida.
Yeah, another Partisan from New York.
Hey.
Mama, Randy, will you kiss me and hold me and stop me from shaking and take me away?
Yes, I will. You can come and nestle in my armpit.
Listen, I moved to Florida and it was 50-50 because me and my wife, we said, do we really want to educate our children down here? And we found Naples and we found decent schools. They're all new. And the teachers were all with certificates, and we did find like a plan B for a private school that was out of pocket. It wasn't like we're going to get some help from the government or anything like that to send them there. How times have changed, But the reason why I'm bringing this up is that DeSantis has gone out of his way to tell teachers what they can say and what they can't say. Doesn't pay for their college education, doesn't pay for their graduate degree.
And DeSantis just suggested, because all Florida school teachers have moved on, nothing to see here, nothing to do here. So we have a teacher shortage, and he's proposing putting police officers.
Yes, this is what I'm guessing. You're right.
To teach your kids algebra? No. Really?
That's why are we making more out of this? This is a winning issue for us.
I know. Listen. The added to the list of things that they're against. They're against reading because they're banning books. Texas, they're very busy banning books. Very busy. They just banned Anne Frank's diary. Anne Frank's diary. They said an adult needs to be present when you read Anne Frank's diary. This is written by a child in hiding from the Nazis, and children can't read her book. Okay. And now they want cops to teach, not in the classroom, but to teach.
Show. To speak with Randi, dial 561-270-3844. That's 561-270-3844.
My water broke at 18 weeks and 6 days. My due date was October 5th, and this happened on May 10th. The odds of my baby's survival making it to October 5th were nearly 0%. That night, my husband and I mourned over the death of our baby girl, Theodora. Everybody knew my baby was going to die, and yet they made me go home, get sick, and suffer for 4 days. Hell hath no fury like a woman scorned. The Supreme Court scorned millions of us. We cannot sit down. We have to make sure that that guy up there, he wins this next election. I block walked for you in 2018, and I'm gonna make sure you get elected this time.
What you just did was so courageous and so powerful and so necessary. Every single one of us is gonna carry this story with us. And I think that's going to invoke not only the empathy, but the action that you call for from our fellow Texans, regardless of whether they're Republicans or Democrats or anything else. They're going to care about you and every other woman in this state. They're going to rise up, do the right thing, vote like their lives and your life depends on it, because they do, and win this election. It's the only way through. Thank you for being here. My hero.
It is the only way through this mess, is to replace them, is to get rid of Abbott, is to get rid of these, people who are taking away rights. I mean, Texas, they're literally taking away the right to read, because they're afraid of ideas. They're literally afraid of ideas. So Texas, by the way, not only banned Anne Frank's diary, okay, but they banned the Bible. It's because it's too violent. It has child molestation in it. It has abortion in it. They banned the Bible in Texas. I swear to God. This is crazy that they would ban the Bible so that they would have some ground to stand on to ban books that they don't want in schools. Because they're afraid of ideas, period. Anything that gets a kid to read. I don't care if it's Harry Potter or Anne Frank's diary. That's a good thing, no? That's a good thing. But they're very busy taking away free speech. They're very busy banning things, burning things. They're very busy, tearing the house down. They're very busy tearing our government down. Very busy ending democracy for an autocratic dictator. Wannabe. Never will be. But that's what they're doing. I mean, it's just so unbelievable. So, honestly, they're taking away the right to privacy from a woman. This has already happened. This isn't conjecture. Then remember when with the health care, repeal and replace. They never had a replacement for Obamacare. Never, ever, ever, never. They're so afraid that you might actually live in a country that is striving toward equality, that punishes the rich for tax fraud and grand larceny the same way it punishes the middle class and the poor for tax fraud and grand larceny. They're terrified of that. They need to hold on to power. Because if they don't hold on to power, Weisselman, who just pled guilty to 15 felonies, doesn't get 100 days in Rikers Island. He gets 15 years in a supermax prison. David in Texas.
Yes, hi. I just had a question about the inflation that's happening, obviously, that we all are in. Now, with the inflation above 8%, do you think it was a great idea for Biden to sign a bill, the Inflation Act, that's going to ask taxpayers to pay for $800 billion for fundamental occurrences that probably are not the greatest idea right now? Maybe when we have a higher GDP growth, in a year or two, but I mean, I just don't see it was the greatest thing for him to sign a bill for $800 billion. What's your thought?
I think it's a great idea. I think it pays down the debt, which is part of inflation. I think that, making sure that people can get through the inflationary period by lowering prescription drug costs, by lowering health insurance premiums, I think is a very good thing to help people get through what is global inflation, broken supply chains. Yes, I think it's a perfect idea.
Okay, I just wanted to hear what your thoughts were.
Now you know, and we'll see. Sorry. Well, we'll see. We'll see what happens. Right?
There we go.
Okay. Christopher in Washington.
Hello, Randy.
Hello.
First time, long time.
Oh, really?
Hey, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
My theory about Donald Trump's little raid is that some government agent that works for one of our allies purchased top secret documents. While they were purchasing them, the seller said, if you like this, there's so many more boxes in Mar-a-Lago, I can get you, just let me know. And that
just like I said to the last caller, we'll see. Because we don't know what was there. We don't know if it was our nuclear secrets, if it was an ally's nuclear secrets. I mean, for all we know, could have been Israel's nuclear program that they sold to the Saudis. Could have been, China's nuclear program that they sold to the Saudis. I mean, we don't know what it was. All we know is that there is a complete and utter disregard for our national security, and that somebody has to answer for that.
Yes.
Because the documents were there.
Much darker theory than me.
I have no theory.
Other people's secrets.
I have no theory. I have no idea whose nuclear secrets it is. Is it our nuclear secrets? Is it another country's nuclear secrets? And if it is another country's, were they an ally? Were they an enemy? What was it? What was it that was so top secret and had to do with nuclear weapons? We don't know.
Yeah.
But we need to understand that this man has no regard for our national security. None whatsoever. He wouldn't have mishandled whatever this valuable information was. For all we know, it could have been sources. It could have been people's names. It could have been operatives that get Iran's nuclear information. Do you know what I'm saying? We don't want Iran to go nuclear, right? He pulled us out of the Iran nuclear deal. Now, why would he do something like that? And then what the hell was in there? I don't know. We don't know, but we deserve to know. And we also should know.
We deserve to know, and we need to know.
Right now, what we
need to know this.
No, what we need to know is that man has no regard for our national security, and that he should never be considered to be the commander-in-chief of even his own company. I mean, just no. The answer is no. And now they've taken to telling us, well, if you indict him for this, he'll run from prison, and that's okay with them.
Yeah, because Eugene Debs ran from prison.
Eugene Debs was a union.
Fine.
Eugene Debs was a union organizer. You understand that? He ran against Woodrow Wilson and then McKinley. Okay, and he was always a democratic socialist, is what he was. He was a union guy. He believed in unions. He believed in union organization, and they put him in jail for speaking about. Okay, this is why he went to jail. This was World War I era, okay? And Eugene V. Debs told men that because they weren't allowed to organize, they should not join the military and fight in World War I. That's why they put him in jail. That's what made him such a dangerous, dangerous man. They put him in jail for sedition, which is why Joe DeGenova thought of him, because Donald Trump is going to be charged with seditious conspiracy. That's what led Joe DeGenova's mind to invoke Eugene V. Debs running from prison, because Eugene V. Debs was in prison for sedition for telling men not to join the military to fight in World War I. That's why he thought of him, okay?
They are going to indict Donald Trump. Merrick Garland has lost his senses.
But I think you pointed out last week, if they do indict him, crazily enough, I mean, if they're crazy enough to do it, that doesn't render him ineligible to run or even be president?
He can, listen, Eugene Debs ran for president from a federal prison. There's no reason that that's going to happen to Donald Trump. He's not going to be in a federal prison. But if he's indicted, he will run for president.
The reason why he thought of Eugene V. Debs is exactly the same reason why Donald Trump will end up in federal prison. It's because Eugene V. Debs erroneously was charged with and convicted of sedition for telling men not to join the military to fight in World War I. Donald Trump, on the other hand, at the very least, mishandled classified documents and at the very most sold nuclear secrets for his own enrichment. Also organized a conspiracy to overthrow our government and attack our capital. Sorry. There are so many investigations, so many criminal cases. Everything from tax fraud all the way up to seditious conspiracy and now espionage. Dear Jesus.
Mary had a little lamb.
We believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America. From radio beacon to radio beacon. I have a dream today. Change has come to America.
Believe me. Help is on the way.
Knock, knock. Who's there? It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show. Turn up your mind.
New polling from NBC News shows Americans no longer believe the economy is the most pressing issue facing our country. Threats to democracy have overtaken the cost of living. The poll also shows 57% of Americans believe the investigations into Donald Trump should continue.
The top issues, what people say the top issues facing the country are, it is interesting, threats to democracy makes #1 overall. If you add together cost of living and jobs and the economy together, they would come to 30%. If you merge those two as sort of similar, that would be #1, although that combined total is down a little bit from our last poll. But what I thought was really interesting was just to look at the partisan breakdown. How do the two parties look at the top issues facing the country? And you see some pretty stark differences on this one. For instance, you take the question of abortion, particularly after the Supreme Court decision, 15% of Democrats rate that as the most important issue facing the country, 5 times greater than the Republican number. Only 3% of Republicans rate abortion as the top issue facing the country. And then how about this for an imbalance? Immigration and the border, 2% of Democrats cite that as the top issue in the country. 15 times as many Republicans, 30%, rate that as the top issue facing the country. So there are some stark divides here between how each party universe looks at the big problems facing the country heading into this midterm.
So you can easily tell what channel they watch. I mean, that is unbelievable. That is unbelievable. But the #1 issue for voters in 2022, in the 21st century America, is a threat to democracy, which is really bad news for Republicans, but really good news for democracy. Just saying. I mean, it's unbelievable. So I'm looking, at some of these poll numbers. This makes no sense to me at all. I mean, you could say to yourself, maybe 21% of Americans are paying attention. That might explain the results of this, but it makes no sense that only 15% of Democrats and 3% of Republicans think that a ban on choice a ban on freedom is, anywhere in the top 5 issues. I'm sorry. I just don't think that. I think that poll right there might be an outlier. I have no idea. But the threat to democracy issue is an issue. It is. It's unbelievable. People are concerned and careful about thinking about politicians now as being a threat to our democratic way of life in the 21st century. I mean, that is the first time I've ever even seen that issue. Have you ever seen that issue in a poll? I've never even seen that show up. I've never seen it be a concern of any voter. Any voter in the history of polling. So it's pretty interesting. According to this, 47% want to see Congress be controlled by the Republican Party, and 45% want to see Congress controlled by the Democratic Party, with 8% undecided. So you can see that we have some talking to do to the undecided voters. You need to decide. You need to decide, like, now. Tomorrow is primary day in Florida. And, I already early voted, as I told you. But, here it's a closed primary. So if you're a registered unaffiliated voter, you don't even get a ballot. So that's why I still am registered as a Democrat, so I can vote. Because the Republicans, they run unopposed in this here state. Ron DeSantis is running unopposed in the Florida Republican primary. So why would you, even want to participate or I mean, it makes no sense. But I will tell you that swing voters in Florida are not completely sold on DeSantis, and they're not completely delighted with little Marco. That's interesting to me. The general consensus for months in this here state has been that the governor is the reelect of DeSantis is a walk. It's just a walk in the woods. It's nothing. It's done. And that, little Marco was going to cruise into another 6 years of absenteeism because the man never shows up for work. He never does. Ever, never. Okay. He has the worst attendance record of any senator. Did you know that, Florida? Did you? Just saying. So they did a focus group, the Bulwark, which is, kind of Republican as a group. They did a focus group with Florida voters, and they specifically asked for people who were Trump voters up until the last election who could not make themselves hold their nose and vote for this lying sack of personality cultism. And so they called them, in, and they did a focus group with them. And they asked them to describe DeSantis. And the words that they heard the most often were power hungry. It's a hyphenated word. Power hungry, petty, opportunist, egotistical, anti-abortion, bull in a china shop, don't like his revenge politics with Disney. I mean, some people in Florida have had it with this man. They really have had it. Now, let's just hope that they show up in the general election and vote because the primary, he's unopposed, as I've mentioned, right? But this man is very busy campaigning for other Republican, anti. First of all, I got to tell you that he appeared this weekend, DeSantis did, with another election liar, Doug Mastriano, who wants to be governor of Pennsylvania, and actually said out loud that the reason he's running for governor of Pennsylvania is because he wants to turn you, Pennsylvania, into Florida.
Oh, it's going to be fantastic. We heard from him and his team a couple weeks ago asking if we'd be interested in doing a rally in Pittsburgh. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Heck yes, because my goal as governor of Pennsylvania is make Pennsylvania the Florida of the North, because he set the gold standard for the good a governor can do leading a state.
So in this focus group, nobody could think of anything good that he had done, DeSantis. But he did go to Pittsburgh and campaign with Doug Mastriano this weekend, okay? And this caused the entire Jewish community in both states, to say they could not vote for either of them. Because I don't know if you know this, but Doug Mastriano is a white supremacist. He is a white nationalist. He is an anti-Semite, and Ron DeSantis showing up with him really was a turnoff to Jewish voters in both states. So good luck with that there stuff, you know. But DeSantis was very busy doing photo ops to tell you that, you know, to show you how you can smell the fascism in Florida. Now, this is crappy audio. It's really short, but this is really crappy audio. I have to warn you. He doesn't do mic checks at all. But he appeared with a bunch of police officers. Remember, he announced that he was going to have election police. He has election police. And he wanted to announce that he had arrested 20 voters with this election police force that he spent millions of dollars on a bad mic, okay?
The state of Florida has charged and is in the process of arresting 20 individuals across the state for voter fraud. These folks voted illegally in this case, and there's going to be other grounds for other prosecutions in the future. They are disqualified from voting because they've been convicted of either murder or sexual assault, and they do not have the right to vote. They have been disenfranchised under Florida law.
Okay, this is a longer discussion than 40 seconds on a bad mic, okay? I wonder how many people remember that in Florida we had in 2018 Amendment 4. Amendment 4 passed in 2018 with 65% of all Floridians who voting for it. It restored the right to vote for felons. Death sentence came behind that and said, oh, but you have to have paid all your fines and any assessments that the court had levied upon you. But we don't have a database, so no one...
All things Randi at RandiRhodes.com.
Go for launch.
Speaking truth to power, the Randi Rhodes Show.
There's maybe no issue that we've led more strongly on than drawing a big fat line in the sand to say that the people of Florida believe that the purpose of our school system should be to educate our kids, not to indoctrinate our kids.
With history?
And to that end, we've done things like ban critical race theory in our K through 12 schools.
It was never taught.
We're not going to teach kids to hate our country or to hate each other. We're going to teach real history. We're going to teach them the truth. We're not going to let them impose their ideological agenda on our youth. We've also established a big initiative to promote American civics in our schools. We have a responsibility to make sure that the students that come out of our school system understand what it means to be an American. They need to understand that our rights come from God, not from the government.
I'm sorry? We're a nation of laws, not a Bible nation, okay? We don't have Sharia law. We don't have Christian nationalism. We don't have any establishment of religion in this here country. Listen, this is why people who are, you know, somewhat open-minded don't like him. You know, the people that were in this focus group, a guy from Orlando, he said, I disagree with DeSantis on a lot of things. It's purely just his stance on things. I'm troubled that he's anti-abortion, anti-transgender, but it's more than the social issues. He's petty. He's petty. He says he's all about keeping government out of business unless the business disagrees with him, and then it becomes personal. DeSantis is too much like Trump. I don't trust him. Nick from Miami Shore says, if Chris can win in November here in Florida, then that puts DeSantis in a really bad spot in terms of trying to run for president in 2024, which is what Jahari from Michigan called in to say the other day. Remember, Jahari said, you know, listen, if DeSantis can't win a second term as governor of Florida, I doubt he's viable as presidential material. So this is the goal for me in this here state, is to make sure that this man is defeated in November and that somebody else becomes the governor of Florida, because he is petty, he is spiteful, he is a liar, and he's highly educated. I mean, this guy, I think he went to both Harvard and Yale, and he uses all of his, intellect to spread lies and hatred and resentment and play to grievances, and that is a sad waste of a law degree. Really sad waste. Terrible. So what does he do? He goes out and he forms this election police Election police, because that's what you want when you're voting. Police, right? What could go wrong there? And so these people that he announced in this, this was such a publicity stunt. It was so, yeah, you're a tough guy with your little head and your big fat body, standing there with all these police officers who went and arrested people who were voting in 2020. 2020, this is 2 years after they voted in 2020. And by the way, they were given Florida ID. They were given Florida voter ID. They were allowed to vote. They went and registered to vote ahead of the 2020 election, and they were given a voter ID. One of the people who was arrested for voting in 2020, is Ramona Oliver. She registered to vote in 2020 at the Hillsborough Tax Collector's Office. She was asked if she had a felony conviction, and she said yes. She said yes. And the women helping her with her form submitted it, and she was issued a voter ID card. 2 years later, his election police show up, and they leave their business card. Swear to God. They left their business card in her door. Okay, nobody ever told her she didn't qualify under Amendment 4, which we passed in this state in 2018 with 65% of the vote. She wasn't told that she wasn't eligible, that her voting rights had not been restored. She said she was very excited after all the time that she had served. She wanted to get out and try to do the right thing, give back to the community. So she showed up to vote with her brand spanking new voter ID card. Now Ron DeSantis is saying, well, it was against the law, and now you're going to pay the price for it. And they're literally threatening her with 5 more years in prison. 5 more years in prison. But they gave her a voter ID card. A few weeks ago, she found a Department of Law Enforcement business card in the frame of her door. So she called the number on the business card, and she was told that officers had found something fraudulent on her account. She thought they were talking about banking. She thought maybe somebody had used her credit card or somebody had used her debit card erroneously, and that they were policing her bank account, and so they were going to help her. So she actually told the officers, to come and see her. They came to where she worked. They asked her if she voted in 2020. She said yes. And she said she didn't understand what was wrong. And they put her in handcuffs. She was at work doing nothing wrong, responding to a business card that was left in her home door. And the reason why she didn't think that there was anything wrong is because we restored felons' voting rights in 2018 in this here state with 65% of the vote. Now, what Ron DeSantis did was he came after Amendment 4 passed, and he said, I need a law passed with my Republican legislature. If anybody owes any money to the court, if there are any outstanding fines or anything like that, and people tried to pay their fines. They tried, and guess what? Florida doesn't have a database. So there's no way to know how much you owe or if you owe anything. But they're issuing voter ID cards and telling people they're free to go vote. And now he's doing, publicity stunts with a bad mic telling people, oh, we arrested 20 felons who tried to vote, as if people will forget that we restored felons' voting rights, okay? Now, here in Florida, only 8% of Floridians with felony convictions have tried to register to vote. Only 8%, and this is why. They don't trust him. They don't trust this government. They don't trust that they will not get arrested for trying to vote when there's no place for them to go and figure out if they owe anything, number one, and number two, if the particular crime they committed is one that still requires them, to sit it out. We have no central data bank to track court fees, and the election supervisors and the places where you can go and register, like the Department of Motor Vehicles and the tax collector's office where you can go get voter ID, they're just issuing voter ID. And people are allowed to vote, they think. And now they're being threatened with 5 years back in federal prison or state prison. Their intention was not to break the law. Isn't it interesting that when it comes to, holding Donald Trump accountable for anything, we have to prove intent. We have to prove that he intended to defraud the United States. But with these people, 20 of them, we don't have to prove that they intended to defraud the state. Leo Grant, a 55-year-old, he lives in South Bay in Palm Beach County. He was unaware he was breaking the law. He said the Florida Department of Law Enforcement showed up at his home a week ago, interrogated him, and left. Then Thursday morning, they came and they arrested him and took him to jail. He said, how did I commit fraud? I don't understand any of this stuff. They gave me a voter ID card. What the hell?
Call in, connect. To speak to Randi, call 561-270-3844.
561-270-3844. Fundamentally, right now, what is on the ballot this November? Let's not make any mistake about it. And I think the Liz Cheney results from this week made it crystal clear. The choice is not between Democrat and Republican. It's between democracy and fascism. But you're right. The Republican playbook is to rig the system and make voting the most difficult thing possible. So you're asking a lot of these Democratic candidates to win in states with one hand tied behind their back, a little pepper spray thrown in their faces when you take into consideration all of these efforts that the Republicans are doing in these states to make voting more difficult and to target certain voters. We certainly see it everywhere, but it's especially happening here, even in my home state of Florida, which is where in an otherwise environment where things are looking really difficult now for the Republicans and have been in these last 2 weeks, it's still something you have to contend with. And you're right. You cannot take them for granted.
Really, they are coming for you. This whole projection thing about the FBI going to Mar-a-Lago and saying, oh, they're going to come for you too. If you steal classified information and store it in your home and get a subpoena saying, we know you have this, please turn it over, and you refuse to do so, possibly a search warrant will be applied for with a court of law and a judge will sign off on it. And yes, they will come after you too. In order to, have that happen to you, that's all the steps that are needed, right? But if you're a voter in Florida and they issue you a voter ID card after you legitimately go and ask, can you vote? And they say, oh, yeah, and they send you a voter ID card or they issue a voter ID card. 2 years later, Ron death sentences, a police force, his election protection police, will come knocking on your door and arrest you. Now, this poor guy, he said, why did they send me a voter ID card if I wasn't allowed to vote? He had to pay $200 bond on Thursday to get out of jail. He said, I can't afford it, but I'm doing it. I have to appear in court September 13th, and I ain't got no damn money for no lawyer. About 10 minutes later, this guy was sitting in the police office there. He was sitting in the precinct, and another guy was brought in, a guy who lives nearby in Belle Glade, which is a black farming community not far from me, okay? So then they bring in another guy. They bring in Robert Simpson. He's 64 years old. They bring him in on the same charges. He registered to vote. He voted early in the 2020 general election. And they came and they arrested him 2 years later on the same day that they arrest Mr. Grant. Yeah, Nathan Hart, he says he's scared he's going to lose his house, his car, his livelihood, and visitation rights that he has with his teenage daughter after he was arrested on Thursday. He registered to vote in 2020 when he went to renew his driver's license. And the man who actually renewed his driver's license also issued his voter ID and said, you can vote even with a felony offense. And even then, Mr. Hart was skeptical. He didn't really want the voter ID. He really didn't want it. So he pushed back with the clerk and said, are you sure I'm eligible to vote? Are you sure? And he said, yes. Voters in Florida restored your voting rights and you are entitled to vote now. You've paid your debt to society. Here's your voter ID. He registered as a Republican, and he voted in the 2020 general election, and they arrested him on Thursday. Same thing. They showed up at his door. He thought it was a residence check. He thought that, because he's a sex offender, but he won the right to visit his teenage daughter. This was no easy thing for him either. So he thought they were coming to do a residence check, right? Because he's on the sex offender registry, and he figured, let me update my information. And the officer said, no, they're not interested in that. They want to know, when did you vote? When did you vote? And he said 2020. They said, well, were you discriminated against because of your status? And he said, no. And then they arrested him. They arrested him. This is what Ron death sentence is, concerned with here. This is what, occupies his day. And then going up and campaigning with white nationalists, white supremacists in Pittsburgh. Holy crap. We are in so much trouble. Our democracy is literally hanging by a thread. A thread. And Florida has always been Florida, but it's so Florida now because of Ron. Because of Ron. We had more deaths than anybody in COVID. And people are pissed about it too, I have to tell you. People have said, listen, I don't agree. This is from the focus group I was talking about. Somebody said, I don't believe in revenge politics. And another person said, I don't agree with how we handle the COVID pandemic, like restricting local municipalities, not allowing them to enforce mask mandates. I think that was very inappropriate, highly inappropriate. Guy from Orlando said, I disagree with him on everything. Another guy said he's petty. Another guy said he's too much like Trump. I don't trust him. Okay, people understand. They unanimously, everybody in this focus group unanimously opposed the Stop Woke Act, which a judge has suspended, saying it makes no sense because we don't teach, never did, critical race theory. And so how do you keep critical race theory out of schools and workplaces, especially, private business, and you're the government? How do you do that and not infringe on free speech? So, and then everybody said they were also opposed to the Parental Rights and Education Act, also known as Don't Say Gay. They're sickened by this. They said he's just trying to be continuously provocative, the way that Trump is provocative, and he's going to further divide our country, and I don't feel safe with him. Well, good for you. People that are paying attention, and they get what this is. They get this is just, a dog and pony show, that he's trying to play to grievances, that he's trying to play to haters, that he's trying to play to the lowest form of life. Okay, the lowest common denominator that, occupies primary voters, which, tend to be the most radical, extreme voters in the Republican Party, the primary voters. So that's where we are. Robin Mesa.
Hi, Randy.
Hey.
Yeah, this is total government entrapment. I mean, they know everything about you as far as if you get incarcerated. They know everything about you when you go to register to vote. They should be able to block that at every step of the way, meaning if it accidentally went out and you create a felony, blah, blah, blah. Everything should be blocked. So this is just total entrapment because they know everything that's going on. Like when you go in to vote, you should have been flagged then. Even if the vote gets through, they obviously caught it. So I don't understand, on an individual level like this, that's an issue. They should just say, oh, your vote didn't count, and this is why.
Well, their vote did count. It was 2 years ago. It was 2020, and their vote did count. And so 2 years after the fact, they're coming and arresting people and threatening them with 5 years in prison for...
Yes, this is a part of the intimidation program they've got going now. Now, if you have any doubt about your background, you might stay home, which
exactly.
is, again, the ultimate goal.
Right, which is why only 8% of people who have had their voting rights restored by virtue of the fact that 65% of Floridians voted to restore their voting rights, right? That's why only 8% of them are even willing to try to vote because of him.
This is the Randi Rhodes Show. To speak with Randi, dial 561-270-3844. That's 561-270-3844.
Take a look here. Blake Masters in Arizona, underwater at -5. Herschel Walker in Georgia, -5, underwater. Mehmet Oz in Pennsylvania, Whoa, my goodness gracious. Minus 20, well underwater.
Huh.
And this one is perhaps the biggest shocker to me. Ron Johnson underwater at minus 8. An incumbent who's been elected twice. I think John and I were talking beforehand. The Wisconsin numbers, I think, are the biggest surprise.
It might be the most problematic because for an incumbent, you would think those favorability numbers might be the most sticky.
Yes.
Yes. Well, they're not. And Ron Johnson will likely get beaten by Mandela Barnes, the lieutenant governor of Wisconsin, because Ron Johnson was playing games with the certification of the election. Ron Johnson was trying to get to Mike Pence a slate of fake electors. And we all know it. And Ron Johnson is now on the defense. Ron Johnson, all I did, I was involved in overturning the results of the election for about 2 seconds. You were involved with overthrowing the results of a free and fair election, and your defense is it didn't go on for a really long time.
The January 6th committee is scheduling more hearings, likely in September. Have you been asked to testify? Would you testify?
No, I had nothing to do with January 6th.
If they asked you to testify, though, would you?
What would they ask me to testify about?
The Republican electors and the slate.
Again, it's another grotesque distortion. I had nothing to do with the alternate slate. I had no idea that anybody was going to ask me to deliver those. My involvement in that attempt to deliver spanned the course of a couple seconds. I think I fielded 3 texts and sent 2 and talked to my chief of staff that somebody wants you to deliver something. Yeah, I knew nothing about it. And in the end, those electors were not delivered because we found out from vice president's staff they didn't want them delivered. End of story. Again, I know that's been blown out of proportion. You think so? The January 6th committee didn't do their due diligence, and they blew us into like some massive conspiracy. Again, I had like virtually no involvement. Literally, my involvement lasted seconds.
So my involvement lasted seconds, except that the staffer that he talks about as being some low-ranking staffer who wanted to, deliver something to Mike Pence, which was a slate of fake electors, is a very seasoned political operative, okay? A guy with Mondo experience. In fact, came right from the White House to work for Ron Johnson. I mean, this is so unbelievable. So that's why he's underwater. People do take the threat to democracy seriously, and at least 21% of us do. And that's what this last poll showed. And I'm telling you right now, this last poll that I just showed you that says that the threat to democracy is the biggest issue for voters in this next election. I've never seen it be an issue in any election ever before. It's always about, it's the economy, stupid, or I need a job, or it's the price of gas, or the price of beef, or whatever. No, not this time. This time people are saying the threat to democracy is my voting issue. It is why I'm showing up. It's why I'm going to the polls. I mean, that is unbelievable. And 57% of voters say that the investigation into Donald Trump should continue. That's nearly 60% of this country, 57% of this country want to see this investigation completed. And you know who doesn't? People who were involved in the subversion of our democracy, like Ron Johnson. And this is why guys like DeSantis are going out and saying, we're going to have election police. And, 2 years after the fact, we're going to go arrest people who were issued voter IDs by the state of Florida, but we screwed up and now they have to go to jail. Now they have to go to jail for 5 years. They didn't intend to defraud. These people did. Gary in Fort Lauderdale.
Wonder how many of those 20 people were registered Democrats.
Well, I know at least one of them was a Democrat, and I know at least one of them was a Republican.
I'm surprised to hear that. Anyway, as a Floridian, I find this DeSantis to be very scary. And for your listeners that are not Floridians, and they're probably not all interested in this, they need to be interested in this because in 2 years he's coming to be the president. You can bet on that. He hates anybody who's Democrat, liberal, left, the woke. He doesn't want to work for all the Floridians. He only wants to work for some, the ones that he thinks support him. And these commercials that he's running endlessly on CNN, I'm sure that you see them.
Yeah.
They're just so disgusting. It's like they're meant to piss us off,
Well, remember his first commercial when he first started?
Yeah, with the baby.
In the onesie.
course.
Which was
But I
child
find these
abuse.
where he reads the letter. He's in his limousine getting driven somewhere, and he reads the letter from the guy. He says, "I especially like the way you are going after these woke people." You know,
could you look up the word awake and see what it means? It just means aware. He doesn't want people to be aware of anything real, of anything around them, of anything at all. How did it become a bad thing to be awake? How did it become a dangerous thing to be woke?
Yeah.
I obviously, look, these polling numbers for these Republicans is really putrid. It's terrible. And that's why they're doing what they're doing. That's why they trash awareness. That's why they trash information. Information, as you know, Gary, is the coin of the realm. And if they can suppress it or keep it from people or just constantly, here's a really interesting fact. Immigration in this country is down since Joe Biden became president by 14%. Okay. It's not enough, but 14% lower than it was when Donald Trump is president, right?
I would never have known that from listening to the news.
Right. Right. And the reason why it's down is because Biden decided to go after the coyotes. He decided to go after the traffickers. He decided to go after the people who, make money off of, giving people the road to go. Right. And not the people. The people are apprehended at the border and they're turned around. OK, the people who have legitimate asylum claims, which is still legal. They're being bussed.
Yeah,
they're being
other states.
Yes, and
DeSantis is going to start doing that too, I hear.
That's fine because New York is welcoming them. New York is saying, you know what? Give us your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free. These people who are applying for asylum are obeying our laws, and when they come here, we will greet the buses. We will take them to hotel rooms that we've rented en masse to house them, or to homeless shelters if we have space in our homeless shelters. We will give them medical help. We will feed them, and we will make sure that they have the best start in American life that's possible for people who had no choice in arriving in one of the toughest cities to live and pay for things, New York.
And there's plenty of jobs available.
There are.
And Randy, you just said homeless. I'm thinking all these buildings that are for rent because now people are working from home.
Yeah.
These can be converted to places for homeless people.
They can be converted into a whole lot of things. They could be converted into, medical centers. They could be converted into, shelters for people who are applying for legally asylum and are here legally applying for asylum. It could be for, homeless people who have mental illness and need treatment. That's why I'm saying you have a medical center there, too. I mean, there's a lot of things we can do. And, trust me, Republicans aren't interested in doing any of them.
No.
Right. Thanks, Gary.
All right.
Marcus in Vegas.
Hello, Randy. I was wondering if you can briefly speak to a report that I heard on MSNBC, Ayman Mohyeldin, and that is that I guess there were Trump supporters who also fraudulently attempted to vote, and they're not going to prison.
Oh, in the villages.
Yes, that's right. That story. Yes, could you speak to that? Because I personally didn't catch all that.
Okay, so you had a whole bunch of people, I think there were 3 or 4, okay, who voted twice in the villages. Now, to vote twice shows intent, right? So they intended to defraud the state. They intended to go and break the law. And you know what their great punishment is? They have to complete performing community service and attend a civics class. They're not sitting in a precinct having to bail themselves out with a $200 bond and being ordered to appear in court with, without a lawyer because they can't afford one.
By any chance, would you happen to know their political affiliation?
Yes, they're Republicans. The Villages is 2 things, Marcus. It's the Republican bastion of senior citizens, and it's the STD capital of the state. Yep.
It's amazing.
It
really is amazing.
Yeah.
Hey.
All right, you too. So yeah, this one lady, her name is Joan Halstead, for example, 73 years old. She had to go into a pre-trial intervention program on Wednesday so she can avoid any prison time. So what the court told her was that she could complete a course of community service, and if she takes a civics class. Meanwhile, you see these people in Belle Glade, which I said is a black farming community. They're not being given this choice. They're being held on bail. They have to come up with cash bond and then appear in court on September 13th. 5 years in prison.
Mary had a little man. We believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America. From radio beacon to radio beacon. I have a dream. Change has come to America.
Believe me. Help is on the way.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show. Turn up your mind.
3 Arkansas law enforcement officers have been removed from duty after this video showing them hitting a man outside a store in Mulberry, Arkansas, was posted to social media.
Oh, God.
The officers are seen punching and kneeing the suspect repeatedly and later arresting him. In the video, a woman not seen can be heard screaming to stop beating him, telling the officers he needs his medicine. An officer points and yells at her to back up. The person who posted the video says her sister witnessed the altercation. The 2 Crawford County deputies were suspended and the Mulberry police officer placed on administrative leave while the incident is investigated. Police say the man in the video is 27-year-old Randall Worcester of Goose Creek, South Carolina. They accuse him of threatening and spitting on a gas station attendant in a nearby town.
Spitting?
The clerk then called the police.
Spitting.
Worcester then rode a bike to the County Express convenience store in Mulberry, where he was arrested outside the store. One witness tells CNN affiliate KHBS it looked like the man got up to run away to avoid arrest, but the sheriff claims he got up to attack an officer. Worcester is being held at the county jail on multiple charges, including first-degree assault and second-degree battery. It's unclear whether he has an attorney. The Crawford County Sheriff's Office released a statement writing, "I hold all my employees accountable for their actions and will take appropriate measures in this matter." Arkansas Governor Asa Hutchinson tweeted, "The local arrest incident in Crawford County will be investigated pursuant to the video evidence and the request of the prosecuting attorney."
Now, Worcester was hit with a number of charges, including assault and resisting arrest. But this is an incident that's going to take a lot of investigation. The sheriff's office says a state investigation was opened into what will be limited to the physical force used here against the officers involved. Only once that's done could it be referred to a county prosecutor for any potential charges.
So that guy that you saw the crap kicked out of, literally the crap kicked out of, was beaten for spitting. That's what he was accused of, spitting at an employee at another gas station. And then he got on his bicycle, and rode to another gas station where this all happened, because the other gas station called the police because he spit on them. I'm sure he's a lovely person, Mr. Worcester, but the crap that this is like, I mean, this is excessive force, yes, of course, but it's so excessive. When you look at this video, you can literally see them take his head after they have him down on the ground. His shoes are off, okay? They literally knock him out of his shoes for spitting, and then they start beating him so badly that they literally take his head in their little hands and slam his head into the sidewalk. This is just the raw video right here. This is all this is. Don't look away. It says warning graphic content, but don't look away, okay? Now watch this. This police officer is literally with a closed fist punching him in the face, and then kicking him in the head, okay? And then they take his head and slam it into the sidewalk, okay? And there's bystander. Can you imagine like what happens when there is no video? I mean, that just blows my mind. Like, when there is no video, does this just go on? So I chose to show you this not because we need to get the Civil Rights Division of, the Justice Department or the Civil Rights Division of the FBI or anything involved, because they will become involved. They will. But we already know the governor of Arkansas, Asa Hutchinson, and the Crawford police and everybody, these guys have been suspended because there's a video. Because there's a video. No other reason.
I feel like one of the more disturbing aspects of this, among many, is that those guys are not new to beating suspects. Those guys clearly are very comfortable with what they're doing. And I'm not even being funny about this. Those aren't guys who occasionally lose their temper or this is something that's out of character for them. They were very comfortable doing this.
So either that or they watch Goodfellas over and over and over and over again, or even The Godfather, and they know how to do a garbage can beating. I don't know. I don't know which it is, but I'll go with yours. I'll go with yours, Brett. Your estimation, your judgment that says they knew how to beat somebody within an inch of their lives. And they've done it before. I'll go with that. But I wanted to show you a compare and contrast scenario, okay? So you have this guy in Arkansas who spit on somebody, and obviously his sister is watching this saying he needs his medication, right? Okay. Here is a grown-ass man. His name is Martin Hyde, and he's actually running for Congress in Sarasota, Florida. And I bring this up just to compare and contrast the treatment by the police. Martin Hyde is a known quantity in Sarasota. Martin Hyde is a Trumper. Martin Hyde is a devout support the police kind of a guy. He's friends with all the police officers. He's friends with the chief of police. He's friends with the precinct captain. He's friends with everybody. And now he's running for Congress as a Republican in Sarasota. Tomorrow's primary day in Florida. Just thought I'd mention it. But let's just compare and contrast the treatment for Martin Hyde, who got pulled over in Sarasota for doing 57 in a 40 while texting. Okay?
Hey, how you doing? How you doing, sir? I'm Sebastian, Sarasota Police Department. You're on audio and video recording. The reason for the stop, you were observed going 57 in a 40, and you were on your phone texting while you were doing that. That was at Euclid and Fruitville.
You don't need to point at me, officer.
I'm not pointing at you. I'm pointing in the direction where it was.
I'll just call the chief, how's that?
I'll just call the chief.
Sir. Can I see your license?
I am, right?
Yes, sir, I do. Can I see
You know
your
who I
license,
am.
insurance, please?
You can do this?
Yes, sir. I'm sorry? I still have a job to do.
Call the supervisor. I just spoke to your boss.
I just spoke to your boss.
You want your paperwork?
Is it your Russian immigrant status that makes you talk to people like this?
10-14-6.
Call the supervisor.
14 dispatch, can you have my supervisor respond, please?
Yeah. And then we'll see who goes.
Okay. You don't want your paperwork?
6142, you don't have any warrants.
Sir, you're going to be issued a citation.
Anything you have to say. You know what he said about you? You want to hear what he said about you?
He could say all he wants about me. I got a job to do, sir.
You know what he said about you?
If you fail to complete...
Like this. Okay. And he's going to have you again.
And that's fine.
It's not fine. Why do you keep saying it's fine?
Sir?
I'm a law-abiding citizen.
You just broke the law.
If you decide to go ahead and do the court, just make sure you do a prior to submission of payment, as they do require a certificate of completion. If you sign up for it, you must complete it. Otherwise, they will go ahead and suspend your license. You are going to be issued a citation for texting and driving.
Oh, my God.
Okay? You are going to be issued a citation for texting and driving. Your fine is $116. Information in the back. You're going to have an option to plead guilty and an option to plead not guilty. You are going to be issued a citation for failure to provide your registration upon request. Your fine is $116. Information in the back. You can plead guilty or not guilty.
You're lying.
Green paper. Green paper tells you have 30 days to replay.
Why are you lying?
You have 30 days to reply.
Why are you lying?
Your payment options are on the green form.
Why are you lying?
Phone number on the bottom in case you have any questions. When my supervisor comes, I'll wait for him with you if you like me to. Your citation's over here. You can accept them. I will wait, but I will wait in my car.
Just so you know, His registration, when he finally produced it, was expired. The chief of police did show up, and the chief of police told him, it's okay. Calm down. We'll deal with her. He threatened her. He called her names. He told her she was a liar. And he's fine.
Go for launch.
Speaking truth to power, the Randi Rhodes Show.
This is the same guy.
When they turned up at Mar-a-Lago and raided the home of President Trump, that was an assault on every one of the 75 million people that voted for Donald Trump. It was an assault on democracy. These people will stop at nothing. I wish they'd turn up at my home, because they'd have gone home in a body bag.
That is the same man. That is the same guy from...
He is a charmer, this guy.
He literally disrespects law enforcement from stem to stern. The guy wants to drive 57 miles an hour and a 40 mile an hour while texting and then intimidate and call her boss for a traffic officer who's trying to issue his only question, do you know who I am? And she said, yes, sir, I do. Yes, sir, I do. This man is on the ballot. Do you know who his campaign manager is? Are campaign managers. You know who his campaign managers are? Michael Flynn. Yes, that Michael Flynn. General Michael Flynn and Roger Stone. Both felons. Both convicted felons who were pardoned by Donald Trump. This is your law and order candidate, Mr. Hyde there in Sarasota, Florida. This is your House candidate in the 16th Congressional District in Florida. A man who refuses, just said, I'm above the law. The law does not apply to me. And threatens the FBI with death. They will come home in body bags. They come to my house, they will go home in body bags. In body bags.
You know who reminds me of? The bad guy in Lethal Weapon 2, Diplomatic Immunity. You remember that?
I never saw Lethal Weapon 2.
Is he South African or is he British? Do you know what he is?
Yes, he's British. He's lived here for 27 years. He is a British man. He is a businessman, and he's running against an incumbent, an 8-term guy named Vern Buchanan. The primary is tomorrow. And the reason why he says he needs to defeat Vern Buchanan, who is a dyed-in-the-wool conservative Republican, dude, is because he says he's a rhino. Vern is a rhino. And there's nothing lower than being a rhino. And I think it's because he voted on the bipartisan background check bill to go ahead and do background checks before somebody can buy an Uzi. Seriously. This is the quality of candidate that has been selected for you by Roger Stone and Michael Flynn and the Pillow Man and Donald Trump. The law does not apply to them. It just doesn't. And by the way, the FBI, they're Gestapo.
This should scare the living daylights out of American citizens. The way our federal government has gone, it's like what we thought about the Gestapo and people like that they just go after people.
I actually don't think they went in looking for documents. I think that was probably their excuse. I think they went in there looking to see whatever they could find.
Do I know that the boxes of material they took from Mar-a-Lago, that they won't put things in those boxes to entrap him? How do we know that they're going to be honest with us?
Okay. First of all, the first two, that's Rick Scott. He's our senator from Florida, Republican, obviously. And the second one was Marco Rubio. He's our senator from Florida. Add Martin Hyde to that mess. Add Roger Stone to that mess, who also lives here. And you've got the perfect quadfecta of felonies in Florida. People who don't think the law applies to them. And as for Rand, the way that we know they didn't put things in boxes, it was videotaped. And you don't see Trump running to show you that videotape, do you? No. No, you don't. And, oh, by the way, I have to show you this. Okay, so let's just debunk a couple of things. This one is easy. The FBI are not Gestapo. The FBI, if you think that what they did at Mar-a-Lago, meaning they subpoenaed Donald Trump because they understood that there were more classified documents at Mar-a-Lago. Donald Trump defied the subpoena, didn't respond at all. Then they went to a court of law. They presented an affidavit that the judge in this case, Judge Reinhardt, already has said has facts in it that are indeed reliable facts, and is now looking to redact it to protect witnesses from death and harm by Trumpers, okay? But wants to be as transparent as possible and is working to release the affidavit while these people are threatening the lives of FBI agents who did nothing except execute a search warrant, unarmed and in khakis with no FBI logos and no guns. The only armed people at Mar-a-Lago were Secret Service, Donald Trump's Secret Service detail. That's who was armed. Okay. Now, the next lie that needs to be debunked is that the IRS is hiring 87,000 new armed officers to come and get you. They are coming to get you. You understand that that is a lie too, don't you? I don't know if you do or not, because it's been, bandied about, but nobody has bothered to drill down on the fact that this is over a period of 10 years. Yeah. The hiring will occur over 10 years as officers, customer service people, and clerks retire. Okay? So we lost 50,000 customer service reps. You're talking about 2,000 armed IRS officers. That's what we have, and that's what we will always have. 2,000 armed. Why are they armed? Because those are the people that go and do things like asset seizure, right? Those are the people that, from the IRS, that go and seize assets of Russian oligarchs. That's why they're armed. The other people that they're looking to hire are clerks and customer service reps. The other money is for technology. Because, as I told you, cafeterias at IRS offices are being used to house the paper. The paper. This is all such a freaking lie. And I cannot believe that people actually believe any of it, but they do.
If you're a small business owner, you've got now 87,000 agents with 5 million guns and 5,000 guns with 5 million rounds of ammunition. I mean, those folks that raided Trump's place, they had automatic rifles. They had, guns ablazing.
No, they didn't.
And this happened to me with the DNC 3 years ago, where they attacked me, and they will attack. But if they attack me, attack Trump, attack parents of kids in Virginia, they're going to come after the rest of us.
That's Papa John from Papa John's Pizza. That's who that is. He's no longer Papa John from Papa John's Pizza. They removed him. But none of that is true. You are talking, these employees will be hired over the next decade, and they're not all auditors. You're talking clerical workers, customer service, and others, because the IRS has lost roughly 50,000 employees over the past 5 years due to attrition, meaning they just retired. I don't know how this got so crazy.
Call in, connect. To speak to Randi, call 561-270-3844. 561-270-3844.
Well, this is a very, very good package. I mean, it has deficit reduction in there. And we have to acknowledge that we've been spending more than we're taking in, and we've got to start, paying down the national debt, and that starts with reducing our annual deficits. This bill does that. Seniors are getting hammered, my mom included, could pay $1,000 a month out of pocket in the Medicare program. This caps that at $2,000 out of pocket that a senior would have to spend on their prescription drugs. And it also allows us to actually finally, after all these years we've been talking about it, negotiate down the drug prices. That means more money in people's pockets. And what I like best about this is it positions us to rebuild the great American middle class. It puts Ohio and America as the arsenal of energy. We had the arsenal of democracy. We need to be the arsenal of energy. We see what's going on in Ukraine with Putin and China and all of this stuff. We have got to be the source of energy for the world, and this allows us to bridge through natural gas, which is going to create, thousands and thousands of jobs in places like Ohio, help us continue to reduce carbon around the world, hopefully, reduce prices for American citizens. And then you take Ohio, for example, like this bill should say made in Ohio, because when you look at the history of Ohio, we did steel in Youngstown and Cleveland. We did rubber in Akron. We did glass in Toledo, aerospace around the country or around the state. Now we're talking about building electric vehicles in places like Lordstown, Ohio, electric trucks in Lordstown, Ohio, batteries all over the state, solar panels in Toledo, natural gas in the eastern and southern part of the state, new versions of aerospace, new ways of using coal waste in places like Southeast Ohio. This is an amazing opportunity for us to rebuild the middle class and dominate these industries of the future. And this is a lifeline. You add the CHIPS bill, which is going to bring back semiconductor manufacturing. You talk about the infrastructure bill, which is going to create 600,000 jobs in Ohio, good union construction jobs. Intel's coming to Ohio. Like, we are very well positioned in Ohio, but this is about the industrial Midwest and the United States outcompeting China in the industries of the future. And this is a down payment on us doing that.
So that's Congressman Tim Ryan, who is running for U.S. Senate against J.D. Vance. And I have to tell you, he only at the end of that very long, unbelievably beneficial package description did he mention Intel moving to Ohio. But Ohio, Johnstown, Ohio, Ohio's largest ever economic development project, comes with a very big employment challenge for Ohioans, for the Buckeye State. They need to find right now 7,000 construction workers in the booming building environment when there's a national shortage of people working in the trades. So if you don't have a college diploma, but you know a little something about construction, okay, they are trying to build right now a $20 billion semiconductor manufacturing operation in Johnstown, Ohio. That's what Intel is trying to do. These factories will open in 2025, and when they do, they will employ another 3,000 people, and the average salary in that fab, which is what they're called, fabs, the average salary in this, Intel semiconductor factory, $135,000 a year. Average salary. But before any of that can happen, they got a 1,000-acre site that has to be leveled, and they need construction people to build this factory. That's Tim Ryan. That's the Democrats actually doing stuff like that versus, do you know who I am? I'm going to call your boss. The FBI should come home in body bags. I mean, this is just so unbelievable. This is just, the comparison is stark. It's a whole different agenda. And what are they selling you? Fear and loathing. They're selling you resentment and fear. Literally fear with the IRS agents. Oh, they're going to hire 87,000 and they're going to be armed to the teeth. And Papa John said that's the way they went into Mar-a-Lago. No one was armed when they went in to Mar-a-Lago. No one. Not one FBI agent had a weapon. This is all bullcrap. And the only reason why they're doing it is to scare people. People who are responsive to paranoia. People who are responsive to loathing. People who are naturally predisposed to hatred first. That's who they're appealing to with this crap. Kevin McCarthy said, Do you make $75,000 or less? Democrats' new army of 87,000 IRS agents will be coming for you, with 710,000 new audits for Americans who earn less than $75K. Well, apparently the wannabe House Speaker didn't bother to read this legislation, which clearly says no new audits of anybody making under $400,000 a year. These, first of all, I told you the 87,000 is over 10 years. That's when they will be hired as people, clock out for retirement, natural attrition. The money is there to replace the people we've already lost, who are clerical people. We've lost 50,000 employees in the last year alone at the IRS. So it's over the next 10 years, not all at the same time, and not all auditors. And the budget cuts demanded by the Republicans have diminished the enforcement staff, which fell 30% since 2010, despite the fact that the filing population has increased. Now, like I said, 57% of us don't pay any federal taxes. If you don't make enough money, you don't pay any federal taxes. So that's most of the people that are being told to hate. That's most of the paranoid. That's most of the lunatic, fringy people who they're talking to there. But the Treasury says it will hire experienced auditors and workers who will improve taxpayer services. And that audit rates, this is what's in the bill, audit rates, that's how they designate if we're going to have new audits. The audit rates of people earning less than $400,000 a year are not allowed to rise in historic norms. They're not allowed to rise. So that's a long way from 87,000 coming to get you. Representative Troy Nehls of Texas said, Americans asked for lower inflation and Democrats gave us an armed IRS shadow army to spy on your bank accounts. That's false. It doesn't create any such army. We have, and we will continue to maintain, a force of 2,000 special agents. That's how many work at the IRS. That's how many worked at the IRS in 2021. And these 2,000 do things like asset seizures for high-paying, high-evading, income tax avoiding filers, like people who have yachts. That's what they go and seize. Like people who have, I can't even think of like what the very, very elite have that we don't have, but that's what they're for.
This is the Randi Rhodes Show. To speak with Randi, dial 561-270-3844. That's 561-270-3844.
All righty. Let's go to the phone. Mark in California from Friday.
From Friday. Second time caller, long time.
I like
anyway.
Sloppy seconds are great. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, I'm glad we were talking about the IRS stuff. The reason I called on Friday was Weisselberg has pled guilty to 15 felonies, and he's agreed to testify against the Trump organization. And I think one of the big reasons that the IRS is getting demonized is when you fill out a state income tax, there's a line item that carries over onto your federal tax. How much tax did you pay in your state? And if that's filed fraudulently, you are now going to be investigated by the IRS, like Al Capone, Leona Helmsley, some of these lovely people.
Yep.
So I think that's part of the reason they're trying to smear the IRS at the moment.
Listen,
that was it.
They have. Well, thank you. I appreciate you calling back, and I'm so sorry we screwed you up on Friday. We did. We screwed you like every way we could think of. We had.
No, I'm glad he called back. I'm really glad Mark called back. First of all, you're a good caller, and I appreciate calling anytime. And second, I'm so sorry. Fat fingers, idiotic.
No worries.
He really felt bad. I'm just telling you, Brett really, really felt bad because what we had Rick Smith playing over you, and then we started the the out music because we were out of time. So you really got messed up. But thank you for calling back. I appreciate it.
All right. Well, I hope some stronger-willed Democrats will actually start doing some investigations into
right. And one of the
this
things
stuff.
that needs to happen is somebody's got to get on radio and television or whatever outlets they have and show for sure that the 87,000 new IRS agents, A, are not going to be armed, B, are going to be doing customer service and helping you instead of sitting on hold for 2 hours. And that they're not all being hired at the same time, and that the reason why the Republicans are lying about all this is because they have nothing to offer you. Nothing. So they play to the lowest common denominator, which is, lower than the belly of the snake hatred. It's just they play to everybody's paranoia and fear and grief and resentment and hatred. And it's really sad and sick. And that just tells us that there's a lot of work to be done in this country. That people are so angry. But that's why I'm telling you, places like Ohio and this CHIPS bill is ginormous. 20 regional hubs to manufacture semiconductors. Those jobs are $130,000 a year jobs. Those are serious jobs. The construction that has to go into making these factories in 20 different regions of this here country, that's a lot of construction jobs. These are all serious investments in us. Don't ever look to a Republican to do something like that for you, because it's never going to happen. And as far as paying down the deficit and all that stuff, well, we just passed a piece of legislation, it's just got signed into law, that requires that companies that have $1 billion in profits or more pay a minimum 15% tax instead of nothing. That pays down the deficit, number one. Number two, that makes it so that, they have to pay, not us. Every time the Republicans are in power, they transfer the wealth from us to them. And then it's our job to get some of it back. That's the way it works in a capitalist society. They take money out, and now they must put it back in. Alice in Ohio.
Oh, hi, Randy. So glad to get through. Welcome to Hell in Ohio, which we also call Jim Jordan's district, where we have to live here. Yeah.
Oh, you better vote.
Lucky us. We're so lucky. Well, anyway, I don't want to take up your time. I'm so glad I'm listening to you every day. My sister who passed away turned me on to you, and I love it.
I lost my sister, too. I know how that feels.
Oh, I know. Yeah. I know. She did miss your show. She was a great Democrat and a great woman. But to get to the IRS thing, I'm glad they hired people because I've been waiting on a refund from a corrected tax return from like 2019 or 18 that they haven't been able to get to because you have to file amended or corrected returns on paper.
Right.
You can't file them electronically. And so I'm just waiting, I'll be glad if they come to my door with a gun as long as they bring me my check, and drop it off. That'd be fantastic. But on another note, speaking of the district we're in, I'm also the secretary of our executive committee of the Democratic Party. And I've been working out at our Allen County Fair, which is like Trump Yahoo Central out there in the building. And you're talking about people being angry. Last year it was much worse. It hasn't really gotten as bad this year, but I've never seen so many people that can go from zero to batshit raging lunatic in 10 seconds by seeing a cardboard stand-up of Joe Biden.
Yeah.
It's just incredible. And we had to get extra security and everything. So this year it's been a little bit better. We're getting more positive and lots of young people coming in. And saying that they're going to have our back in 2022. And I say, God, I hope you guys sure do. But it is kind of lonely out here for Democrats in Jim Jordan's district.
Yeah, I understand. I really do. I lived in Southern Ohio for about 3 years.
Oh,
so.
Okay. Yeah, we're in Northwestern, so halfway between Toledo and Dayton.
Yeah.
In Lima.
Yeah.
But on a note before I let you go, I don't know if I can say the word bitch slap on your radio station.
Yeah, you can.
But I did get to bitch slap the governor Saturday. He caught me at the wrong time. He came in our booth, our building, in a way of bipartisanship, DeWine. And my friend Bo was there, and he goes, I think this lady has a question she'd like to ask you.
What'd you say?
I said, yes, Governor DeWine. My question is, in what universe do you live in that you think it's okay that a 10-year-old rape victim had to go to Indiana to get an abortion because of a law you signed into effect?
What did he say?
He said, that's not what's in the legislation. I said, well, yes, it is, and so I kept going on. So he left, and I tried to follow him out of our building, and a security guard stepped in front of me and wouldn't let me. But I still stood there while he was talking to other people and let him know in no uncertain terms, you're going to have to answer that question before November. It's going to dog you, right up to Election Day, and there's a blue wave of women coming, in this country.
Yep.
That, especially in this state. But he's just a little puny, dried up thing comes up to my nose. It's like, dude, But I was so happy after I got done ranting and raving, because you can tell I like to talk and rant and rave, but I usually have facts on my side. I went back in and sat down, and I looked at the other ladies working, and my friend, I went, oh, my God, I can't believe I just bitch slapped Governor DeWine.
Yay!
I can't believe it. I was so happy they gave me applause. But keep on doing what you're doing, and
you too.
We're going to try to get in charge of this 2022, keep the House, get more seats in the Senate, break that filibuster, cram legislation up the country's butt, and trust me, you pass legislation that people like and it helps them, they will put you back in office, and the Republicans will never have the majority again.
I agree.
So,
wholeheartedly.
I agree.
Thank you, Alice.
All righty. Well, thank you.
Oh, you're awesome.
I'm so glad I got to talk to you.
Me
Yay!
too. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. You're awesome.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye, Alice. Wow, she was wonderful. Wonderful. These are the people that are involved. These are the people that are showing up. That's what you need to do. And all you need to do is show up one day, November 8th. That's it. That's all you have to do. And vote the Democrats. Vote for the Democrats and give them the House. Or we have the House now, but make sure you keep the House and add to the Senate. And she's right. We can pass even more legislation that makes everything much more middle class centric. I don't know how else to say it. That is what Joe Biden is all about. That is what Democrats are all about. They have always been about the middle class. Now, some of them are more committed than others. You have conservative Democrats. You do. But for the most part, Democrats are the change agents. They are the ones that invest in every working American. Republicans fleece every working American every chance they get. And in place of economic security, in place of real security, in place of everything that is, democratic with a small d, they give you fear and loathing, resentment and hatred. That is not the American way. That is not what we're about. It's not what governing is about. It's not what we have a government for. We don't have a government to create chaos. We have a government to solve problems that individuals cannot solve alone. That's it. Oh, I feel encouraged today. I don't know why, but very nice phone calls. Very, very strong. Very good. Keep at it.